Hello and welcome to Vitality Vibe. So today we're going to make a gluten-free nut and seed bread. It's totally delicious. It's really satisfying because it's so dense you actually don't need very much of it. And it's quite simple to make. Just one bowl, whack all the ingredients in and then pop it in the oven for an hour. Okay, so our ingredients list. We have got, what do I start with? The oats. Okay, so there's 225 grams of oats. And what we do is you blend half of them in a food processor to make them like this, like, see, this is like a flour-like consistency. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exact, you can kind of just eyeball it. So measure out your 225 grams of oats, chuck half of them into a food processor, make them like a little flour, and then put them all into the bowl. So there's the solid oats at the bottom, throw all of those in. Okay, so after the oats, we've got seeds. Okay, so I've got 85 grams here of your pumpkin seeds, so those lovely green ones. We'll put them in. And then I have 85 grams of sunflower seeds. So we'll throw them in as well. What other seeds will I include? Chia seeds. Okay, so we've got 60 grams of chia seeds. Put them in there. So the chia seeds, and then I've also got flax seeds here as well. They're what's going to help bind this all together. So with the flax seeds, you're using ground seeds, all right? And you can either use the golden or the brown. It doesn't really make any difference. I just have the brown ones here today. The gold ones can sometimes be a nicer, slightly nicer flavour, and they leave the bread a little lighter looking as well in colour. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. So what am I putting in here? I'm putting in 105 grams are going in here. All right, pop that in there. And then I've also got some walnuts here. You could use other nuts if you want. You could use pecans or kind of just whatever floats your boat. What I've done with these walnuts is I put them into the food processor and just broke them down slightly. So they still, you know, there's still a bit of a bite to them, but just that they're not as full as, like, you know, halved walnuts. Or so again, I just put them in, blitz them for a wee minute. And then there's 125 grams of those, so that all goes in there. And then I've got some salt. So I've got 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and that goes in. And then I've got 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So this doesn't really rise, but I think the bacon, I'm not sure why I'm no cook. I'm not sure why it's in there, but it's in there anyway, that recipe. But it doesn't really help it to rise. I think it might just help it to just kind of come together. I found this recipe online. The website is called virtualvegan.com, and she has some really good recipes and like really clear instructions as well. And she gives lots of options if you want to omit something and switch it about. So that's good in there as well. And they are all of my dry ingredients. All right, so I'll give this a wee stir about and just mix them all in together. So what I love about this bread, it's just that you really feel like you're getting nutrition. You know, I know store-bought bread is so much more convenient. So you just run in and you grab it and you go. But I'm really concerned about what's been done to our wheat these days. So it's hybridized, and they also spray Roundup on it quite a lot of the time to get it to so that they can harvest it more quickly, to get it to dry out so they can harvest it more quickly. And so obviously Roundup is not something you really want to be ingesting. So if you can at all make some time, what I tend to do with this is I will make maybe 2 of them while I'm at it, and I'll slice one of them and put it in the freezer so that when I run in the door and I'm freaking starving, that I can just grab this rather than, you know, grabbing something in the shop. Okay, so once they're all mixed about, oh my god, they look so lovely. Have a look at this. Like, yeah, it's just nutrition in a bowl. Okay, and then for the wet ingredients. So we have 300 ml of milk. So you can use cow's milk or almond milk or coconut milk, whatever you want, but just not sweetened, so an unsweetened milk. All right, so that's going to go in And then I've got 2.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. So the maple syrup doesn't make this like super sweet. I think it just like enhances the flavors in there. All right, so that. And then the other wet ingredient I have here is 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil. So again, this just puts a nice little bit of healthy fat into the bread, gives it a nice wee colour as well, but you can omit the oil if you want to make it an oil-free version. And if there's anything going on, any nut allergies going on, you could just substitute the nuts for more seeds, additional seeds. And you can really play around with this recipe. Like if you want to make this more of like a sweet bread, you could add in some dried fruit, you could add in some cinnamon, just let your imagination go wild. But you'd kind of just swap out, you know, measure for measure. So if you're taking out, say the 125 grams of walnuts, then put in 125 grams of your dried fruit. So you kind of just, and then you just kind of stir this all about. Mix it all in nice and good. And then what you're going to do is your oven needs to go to about 175 degrees Celsius, yeah. But you want to let this kind of set before you put it in the oven. So you know when most of the time you would preheat your oven before you start doing all of this. Don't bother with that in this recipe because you want to give the chia and flax seeds time to absorb the moisture content of this bread. All right, so if you ever put chia seeds into like milk or water and you leave them, you'll see that they kind of turn into a gel when they absorb the water. So you want to give them a few minutes just to allow that to happen here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good, looks pretty well mixed together. And then you just pop this into your loaf tin. So I have my little tin here. Alrighty. And then what you want to do is you want to really compress this down so that there's no gaps. All right. Just because when you're slicing it afterwards, you want it to be kind of quite solid so that it doesn't fall apart when you start slicing. If you make this bread, I really would love your feedback. I want to know what you think. So a lot of Padraig's family are celiacs, and so this is great. You know, when one of them stops by, I can just whip out a couple of slices of this for them to have with their bowl of soup or whatever else we've got on the go that particular day. Okay, that's it all out. So like I said, now you just want to compress it down really well. Really, and sometimes these wee spatulas are a bit too flimsy for this. I'll use like a silver spoon, something that's a bit harder, because the spatulas tend to be a bit floppy. But like I said, you just want to give it a good compression. And then once your oven has heated itself up, you pop this in for 60-65 minutes. Keep a wee eye on it. And then you'll have a lovely, wholesome slice of bread. And like I said, I would normally have this with maybe avocado on top or some banana and cinnamon. All right, we're ready to go in the oven. Okay, so when you've given your loaf about an hour and 5-10 minutes in the oven, it should be done. If you tap on it, you'll hear it kind of echo. Let it cool on a wire rack completely before you try to cut it. I have just tried to cut this to show you guys, and you see it's completely crumbled on me because it's not cold enough yet. But basically this is what your loaf will look like. It's quite dense, it's kind of like a brick. And then you've got all those lovely nuts and seeds on the inside. So let me know if you make this, the flavour of it. Oh my God, just out of the oven. That's my downfall. I love warm bread with some butter on top. So I was trying to slice it there and I get a little taste of it for you guys. But yes, if you make this, let me know. I'd love to hear what you think. Well done on checking this out, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.